CSG asks, what is an MMA native and who are some good examples? Are we going to have the Rory McDonald conversation again? Because I want to talk about
Uh,
Jake Matthews and
yeah,
how
I mean,
you have to have
I
rich
mean,
parents to be an MMA native.
yeah, yeah. It depends. I mean, what is an MMA native? Depends a lot. I mean, do you think, for example, that Max Holloway training kickboxing for like 2 years disqualifies him as an MMA native? I would say no.
Yeah, I would say no, because he said he learned striking from UFC games. So obviously he was exposed to all the martial arts initially. So he was aware of MMA from the jump. I think that's what counts. If you're
Yeah,
training with the mindset of I'm doing MMA, I think that you are an MMA native. Like Lando Venata wrestled in college. He's not a wrestler. He is someone who wrestled
yeah,
because he wanted to do
yeah.
MMA.
Or for example, like Volkanovski apparently did Greco in high school, but he's
It doesn't
obviously
it doesn't count.
he's an MMA native,
Yeah.
like for sure. Um, Rory McDonald, obviously, a good example of the good and the bad because he got to be very, very good, but also,
Not good enough.
I yeah, I think the problem with cases like Jake Matthews and Rory McDonald, both guys with money to train in high level profile camps from a very, very early age. It's not that they started in MMA and didn't have any specialization. I mean, you can still be a specialist starting in MMA. I
Yeah.
don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that MMA is too tough. I mean, the burnout is too big, and doing professional camps for fights since a young age, I would not recommend. If you see, for example, in Thailand, that they start fighting very young, and they finish their careers very young too, most of the time.
I
And
mean, for
but
for a
also,
Muay Thai
but
fighter, it's not
also,
it's not uncommon to finish your career at
yeah,
like 25 and
yeah,
work
yeah,
like
but
as a taxi driver your entire rest of the
But
entire life.
also, but also one thing that is not talked about enough about Muay Thai is that these guys are not in like training camps. They're just do the regular training, and when they fight fellow Thais, the fights get better. If the fight doesn't have like big stakes, they are very sparring-ish.
Mhm.
It's very common to not use elbows in a Thai versus Thai fight unless it's for a title or high profile. There's a big bets behind it, and it is very common for the fighter that it's winning like to the both guys just start ghosting and accept the result once it is clear that
I mean,
like in
every
a way
like
they take care of each other in
yeah,
the
they
Thai
everyone
culture.
knows one another, everyone trains with one another, and it's
Yeah,
like
and everyone knows that they are fighting like every other week, so
yeah, so
so
it's
they know how it is. MMA is not like that. You go into an MMA fight and it's going to be grueling as shit. Like
yeah,
and the camp is going to be grueling as shit. And you start doing that at 16, and either
probably
you're
don't.
gonna you're gonna either you're gonna accumulate a lot of injuries or you're gonna get burnout. So I don't think it's training MMA as a basis bad. I think I think having a professional fighting career from a young age is kind of bad,
Yeah,
especially MMA. The MMA camps are like the worst for the body of all combat sports because of all the shit you do. You are more exposed to different kind of injuries. MMA fighters train more hours too than most other combat sport athletes. uh even if the training is not as efficient because they have like shit like systems of training unlike in wrestling and boxing when they have like very well put together programs, but still they have to do so much stuff that they do so much, and it's just too grueling for the body, I would say.
Wrestling sometimes that is not the case because sometimes in America they're setting people up to retire at 22. So it's just, but no, I hear you.
I
looking
mean,
looking
American wrestling
shut.
and the whole school of American wrestling is like a topic unto itself regarding injuries and all that
And it's not a
burnout and all that
monolith,
kind of
so
stuff.
there's differences between coaches and all that stuff. But it
Yeah,
Yeah,
happens. It
yeah.
happens a lot where people are being run into the wall because they only need them until their senior year, then goodbye. Yeah. So I don't know.
but
There
also, yeah,
there are
if
examples of MMA natives is the point.
good examples. Obviously, Rory McDonald. Let's go with that.
I
He
think
was
Shane
good.
Burgos is one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That in that case, Shane Burgos would be an example of that you can be like an MMA native and still specialize. Like
Mhm.
Yeah,
if
because
you're an MMA native, nothing prohibits you for going to go into a different camp to train boxing or
yeah,
This
jiu-jitsu.
everyone kind of
Rosas
thinks
kid,
that
the 17-year-old kid, he's obviously an MMA native.
yeah, everyone kind of
Yeah.
thinks that being an MMA native means that you just
You're gonna be better.
your style is going to be all MMA, everything,
Yeah.
every facet
It's
of
like
MMA. It's
it's like
impossible.
you are GSP all the time. Like no,
Yeah,
it is not like that.
everyone is different.
Um,
Everyone has different aptitudes. Every camp is different, and yeah,
Jose
there's
Jose Aldo is also like an MMA native. I mean, he
yeah,
trained like jiu-jitsu for
Jiu-jitsu.
3 years before striking, but come on, he's not a jiu-jitsu player. I mean, he's very good on the ground, but that's not how he fights. Max Holloway too, obviously. Um,
I
and
think
then
like
there are guys that start with a very defined background, and then they become all-rounder fighters too. Like Michael Bisping had a very extensive career in striking. I mean, not professionally, but he fought Kempo kickboxing for a very long time
Yeah.
before
Piotr
MMA.
Jan was an amateur boxer and then
Yeah.
decided to
Yeah,
become an
and
MMA fighter, and his entire
he's a
style
very
is
good.
I think if you trained to compete seriously in a sport, you can't be an MMA native. But if you just train casually in something, if you have a background in something, I don't think that disqualifies you. Like I would actually make the argument that GSP is an MMA native because karate doesn't fucking count.
No, yeah, GSP and MMA native for sure. Like he also like he didn't have like a competitive career
So
at
even if he
either.
did have a competitive career in karate, I wouldn't count it. But yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't, so
I
double
mean,
doesn't count.
it also like says a lot that GSP considers himself to be a martial artist more so than some kind of like particular type of athlete.
Yeah, for example, I think you're disqualified if you had like an actual competitive career before MMA and you keep that style. For example, guys that are not MMA natives, I would say are, for example, Lyoto Machida, Adesanya, Demian Maya, are guys that come with a very like decorated background. Even
College
Stephen
wrestlers
Thompson.
who wrestled to wrestle and then did
Yeah,
MMA
obviously,
after.
yeah.
Yeah,
Even Stephen Thompson, his kickboxing career was a fraud,
yeah. He did compete
but
professionally. Yes.
and he also like still fighting the same way. There are like old examples of MMA natives other than GSP. Like I would say Robbie Lawler, like he wrestled in high school like for 2 years. Like come on,
Gila
dude.
Denial, of course he did. I'm sure he was punching people just as often as he was wrestling.
Misha Tate also
Also
like
wrestled in high school, but yeah, all those like MMA pioneer types that started like when they were really young. Yeah, I feel like you're kind of automatically an MMA native at that point. If your age ends in teen when you start doing MMA, you're an MMA native. Like you don't
yeah,
have a
yeah, for
lifetime
sure.
of another sport behind you
And
to
there
compete.
are a lot of good ones. So
So it's more common than people think.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just the
yeah.
whole terminology of MMA native. Like, what does it really mean to be an MMA native? It's always like kind of bothered me because, for example, like lots of people transition from another sport to MMA and then fight nothing like the way they
Yeah,
competed in the
also
previous career.
that. Yeah. Um,
I think we're good with that one.
so
Yeah.
yeah, moving on.